Welcome to the Art and Soul Podcast. I'm Alicia, your fellow dreamer and guide on this path of healing. This podcast is our sanctuary, a place where artists, creatives, and sensitive souls like you and me can come to recharge and find inspiration. You'll find tips and tools to help you on your awakening journey. Let's dive deep and discover the magic inside of us. Hello. I'm so glad to be here with you today. Today I want to discuss energy healing as a whole and why it works, what the hell it even is, why am I so excited about it, kind of all of that stuff, because I have a lot of people in my life who have asked me this question, both friends, family, and even clients of mine that are getting this work done regularly, but they want to know the science behind it. They want to know why it works, how it works, what we know about it, what we don't know about it, and all of that good info. So I thought it'd be really fun to just do an entire episode on that information. I hope that this covers most of your questions, but if you do have any questions that I haven't answered in this podcast episode, I am more than happy to answer those questions for you. So feel free to reach out, of course, at any point, and I'd be glad to have a chat with you about it. Before I started energy healing, before I jumped into it as a career or even something for my own healing, my own self, I knew a little bit about it. I knew that I had some inclinations and giftings toward intuitive healing. I wouldn't have called it that at the time, but I knew that I had some other intuitive sense that was beneficial in some way. And I wasn't exactly sure how it fit into the kind of work that I already did, healing work and all of that. And I wasn't really sure how it fit into my life at the time. And I think a lot of people come from this place. If you have any kind of sixth sense, if you have any kind of intuitive knowing inside of you, probably you have some ability to work with energy in some way. If you're a sensitive person, an empathetic person, if you're an artist, these tend to be the types of people that have these kind of giftings and abilities. What I will say, though, is that to work with energy, you don't have to have those types of giftings. And we can talk about that a little bit more as we go. But for those of you who do and are exploring that a little bit more deeply, then hopefully I'll be able to dispel a little bit of the mystery around it for you and give you a little bit of a foundation to work with. When I was jumping into this work as well, even just for myself, there was a little bit of fear around it. And it's because it's unknown. Part of it is just unknown because it is mysterious in a lot of ways. Energy and quantum physics and some of the science behind energy has been very controversial in the scientific community for many, many years. If you know anything about like Nikola Tesla and guys like that, they were doing these kind of studies, and the problem with it was that it was coming up against the known science of the day, and it was coming up against some of the religious teachings of the time. Because of that, there was a big block put on this type of research. And so just now, in the last 10 to 20 years, have we really begun to open up this can of worms of quantum energy and quantum physics and this ability to work with it in ways that we never would have thought of before. But ancient civilizations have been using this type of work, this type of healing and technology for many, many years. This was also part of the reason that energy healing to me was so foreign and almost a little scary at first, because it was really connected with both Hinduism and the ancient religions of India and China and Asia. The interesting thing is that energy healing and the concept of energy manipulation has been around in every culture, in every society. All of the ancient civilizations used it in Egypt, in the Middle East, in South America, in North America. Native Americans have utilized it. So it really has been around forever, and it has been in every culture. It's just that now many people associate it with yoga and with either Buddhism or Hinduism and some of the more Eastern religious practices. Because it's unknown and because what is known of it is associated with these religions, it tends to make a lot of people in Western culture or who believe in Western religions a little skeptical about it and even afraid of it. So when I first heard about energy healing and the different types of energy healing, really all I knew about at the time was Reiki and acupuncture. And again, both of those are coming from that Eastern society. The other thing I knew about energy was that it seemed that everyone who practiced it was a little off their rocker. It seemed that they all were dealing with their own mess of shit, and it didn't seem like the energy healing was helping. They all kind of seemed crazy to me. All of these healers and all of these massage therapists who practiced Reiki and kind of everybody that I knew who did this kind of work just seemed a little bit off, a little bit out of this world. So part of me was not really interested in pursuing this type of work at first because of that, not only because I just didn't feel like being associated with that more woo-woo kind of culture, but at the same time, I didn't want to become crazy. I didn't want to be seen as crazy, and I didn't want to actually be crazy. I also was trying to determine how energy related to my own experience of spirituality, if it was the same, if it was different, if it was connected in some way. These were all the questions I was asking at the beginning of my journey with this, because all of that was important to me. I knew that I was a spiritual being having a physical experience, and I knew that I was connected to God, but I did not understand if energy was the same as spirit, if it was something different, and just kind of all of the science around it. I was very skeptical at first jumping into this, like I'm sure many of you are. I understand the skepticism and I empathize with it wholeheartedly. I know that some of this stuff sounds crazy. I know that some of it sounds impossible and like it shouldn't be possible and that it's too good to be true. I know that some of you have had energy work done before and have had negative experiences or experiences with some of those more woo-woo, off their rocker type of people that left a bad taste in your mouth. I totally get that because unfortunately that's kind of the culture of energy healing. Even still at this point, it's starting to change, and with the backing of certain scientific discoveries and research, it helps to make this type of healing a little more mainstream, and as it becomes more mainstream, it attracts more than just those really outlandish types of people who are willing to try anything. Now, to be fair, I am kind of one of those people. I'm not saying I'm not. I am willing to try a lot of things, and I'm a very curious person. So I am willing to look at alternatives, at alternative medicine and ways that we connect and heal and different opportunities in this world that maybe aren't so mainstream. So all of that is part of what led me here, but what really convinced me about starting energy work and trying energy work was the science behind it. So I'm going to pull some of that into this episode for you. I will try my best to give you a good amount of scientific research and data without being completely boring and without it being too much at the same time. I'll do my best. The last thing I want to say too is that with any type of healing, because of the way our minds work, because of the nature of our reality, there is a good amount of belief that needs to happen, faith that needs to happen in whatever it is, our ability to heal, in order for it to work. This brings us back to that childlikeness that we've talked about before. And we'll talk about some of the science behind that and what that looks like. But I do want to say, with any of this type of work, having an open mind is going to get you so much further than stubborn skepticism. I'm okay with skepticism, and it's okay to have a little uncertainty about trying some of this. I totally get it. But your ability to heal and to grow is directly proportional to the amount of faith and hope you can have for change and that something might work. All right, so getting into it, let's talk about the electromagnetic field theory. This is a theory that the human body is surrounded by an electromagnetic field. This is known as the biofield. This is where biofield tuning comes from. That's one of the modalities that I practice. This biofield, this energy field, is also known as the aura. So if you have listened to a lot of spiritual information before, when they're talking about the aura, they're talking about this electromagnetic field. This electromagnetic field is emitted from your body. Your heart has an electromagnetic field, your brain has an electromagnetic field, and even your organs have their own small electromagnetic fields. This biofield, living field, electromagnetic field, this holds information about your mental, emotional, your physical state, and when you have a disruption in the signal, in the field that is coming off of your body, it starts to cause emotional distress, mental distress, and eventually this can cause physical distress. It can kind of work both ways. So if you have a physical injury, say you hurt your knee or something like that, that physical injury can cause injury in the frequency that's emitted from your field. So because of this, you might have like an energetic imbalance in your electromagnetic field. When this happens, it disrupts the signal to other parts of your body, and it may start to affect your mental health, your emotional health, and all sorts of things. It also works the other way, and I think this is the part that people have a hard time believing sometimes. Sometimes you have an emotional event that disrupts the signal in your field. It disrupts the energy, or you have an emotion which is a frequency, and this emotion is trapped in your field in some way, in your energy body in some way. And if it's not released and it's not addressed, this emotion, this signal, or this disruption in the signal can start to cause physical symptoms. So sometimes physical symptoms may be a result of lots of emotional baggage, lots of emotional pain. So we'll get into that on a deeper level a little bit later, but I just wanted to explain how the body emits these electromagnetic fields, and they're influenced by our thoughts, by our emotions, and by our environment. I know that we've talked about this a little bit in previous episodes, but your thoughts all have an electromagnetic quality to them and a frequency to them. This is why a person can wear something called an EEG, which is a device that records the electrical activity of the brain. It's because the brain emits frequency. It emits waves, and those waves can be recorded as wave patterns as data. So it's the same thing as like an EKG, which is measuring the heart activity and the heart electromagnetic state. Now, the interesting thing here is that the heart actually emits the strongest electromagnetic field of anything in the body. So even more so than the brain. And you would think that the brain emits the strongest fields because it is kind of the leader of the neurological system. It is the leader of those neurological impulses, which ultimately are just energy. electrical energy. But the heart is the pump of all of that. And the heart emits an electromagnetic energy field that is 5,000 times greater than the brain's. Now, our heart is obviously influenced by our emotional state, which means that the signal you're putting out into the world is mostly influenced by the state of your heart, the electrical state of your heart. Remember too, this isn't just an electrical field, it's an electromagnetic field, which means it's sending out electrical impulses, but it's also magnetic. It's just something to think about as we're thinking about the way that we attract energy and why certain things are in our life, like we've talked about before. I think it's important to note too, it's not just the heart, it's not just the brain that have these electromagnetic qualities. Our body is essentially electric. Every cell and organ operates and functions through electrical signals. It's what these neurological signals are. It's why your body needs salt and minerals as well as water, because all of that supports this electrical system inside of you. Your fascia, the part of your body that is in between every muscle and every bone, holding all of your muscles together and holding everything inside of you. It almost looks like a spider web, or like the part of the orange that holds the orange together, not the peel, but the white part. We have that fascia inside of us, holding us together. And that fascia is a connective tissue that conducts electrical signals within the body as well. So this is like a network through which energy and information are transmitted. And the crazy thing about fascia is that only recently is it being discovered or researched as anything important within the body other than structural integrity. But now we're starting to realize that within the fascia, our body holds memory and it holds these electrical signals. Then when you look at the bones exhibit an electromagnetic effect too. The bones are a really interesting substance because they have a piezoelectric quality, which means that they generate electrical charges when there is mechanical stress or movement on the bone. So the more you exercise, the more you have physical movement going on in your body, not only does that help just strengthen the bone, but it also generates electricity. Your bones generate electricity when you run or when you jump. So that's why I talk about energy movement, not just being energy work, but also physical movement and physical activity. It's all so connected. And every organ in the body has a specific frequency at which it vibrates. So when we talk about working with sound, for instance, if we're doing sound healing, sound therapy of any kind, what we're doing essentially is just bringing those organs, the frequency that organ is emitting, we're just bringing it back into harmony. We're supporting at a cellular level the state of the frequency that the organ and that part of your body is already emitting. We're just making it stronger. We are just making it more coherent. The other thing that I know we've talked about before, but I just want to bring up in terms of energy healing itself, is that the body has something called magnetic reception. And basically what this means, like I said, is that it's not just electrical, it's electromagnetic. So the body has the ability to sense and to respond to the magnetic fields of other things. It has the ability to be influenced by other energy. It has the ability to be changed and manipulated by sound, other frequencies, by light frequencies, and by the frequency of the people you are around. This is why the environment is part of all of this. The people that you are around and their own frequency, their own vibration that they're putting off of their body, and the frequency of and the quality of energy of the space that you live in, all of that your body is taking in as electrical information and energetic information. So because of that, your electromagnetic quality, your biofield is affected by other fields. This is also where we can talk about dangerous electromagnetic fields, fields that are not good for us, dirty electricity, things like old wiring or lots of machines and those types of things that put off a strong electrical signal. Those machines and those devices also influence the energy of our field. Now, the Earth itself also has an electromagnetic quality to it, and it has this electromagnetic field as well. So when you hear people talk about grounding, this idea of putting your feet on the earth or putting your body on the earth, what that's doing is it's resetting your electromagnetic field to be in harmony with the Earth's field. And a lot of times when we're around all of these machines and devices and appliances and Wi-Fi and all of this kind of dirty electricity and potentially dangerous electromagnetic radiation and fields, especially if you live in a city, especially if you're not in nature a lot, this is why it's so important to go back to nature, to put your feet on the earth. It's because we have this symbiotic relationship with the planet where our electromagnetic field is rebalanced by doing this. When we put our feet on the earth or when we go spend some time in the ocean or on the sand or on the rocks, we're actually transferring some of our energy into the earth, and we are taking in energy from the earth in the form of negative ions. It's like we're rebalancing our battery. We need positive and negative in our system to function properly. That's how electricity works. And part of that is this relationship with nature. It's the same thing as trees and how we need the oxygen and they need the carbon dioxide. And by working together, by living in harmony with one another, we're able to provide what the other needs. It's the same thing, but on an energetic level with the planet. The other thing I want to say about the body is that this is why energy healing is so connected to the nervous system and nervous system healing, because your nervous system is running on electrical impulses. And in fact, let's talk about chakras for a minute. Chakras are the main energetic centers in the body. You have 7 major ones and you have hundreds of minor ones. We really only discuss the main 7 a lot of times in energy healing work, and those are kind of the ones that people know, but you actually have them all over. But where the main 7 are actually where they correspond to major nerve plexuses. And a nerve plexus is like where a bunch of nerves intersect and it innervates different parts of the body. So for example, the solar plexus chakra, it's right in the upper abdomen, it's above the belly button, and this corresponds with the celiac plexus. So this plexus in the body is a nerve center that it innervates the stomach, the liver, the pancreas, like all of the organs in the digestive system. So this chakra is not just some like spiritual woo-woo sort of thing that we made up, like this is where this energy lives. No, it's connected to the physical body. It's connected to the nervous system, and it's connected to these organs and glands that light up and send hormones and send messages all over the body. And that's for every single one of these chakras. They're not just spiritual, they're also physical. And again, this is another layer of that mind, body, spirit. It's another layer of why it's so important when you look at your health in any form. If you're looking at your spiritual health, why you have to address the physical body. And when you're looking at the physical body and working with your own physical healing, why you have to look at some of these more spiritual components, because it's so incredibly connected. So when we talk about energy work and we talk about the chakra system, we're also talking about the physical system, the organs, the glands, the nerves, the cells, the chemicals, all of that. So like I said before, Nikola Tesla was one of kind of the pioneers of working with the electromagnetic field, and he really felt that this was a way to heal the physical body and also a way to move forward technologically. He believed that everyone should have free energy, that it should not be something we charge for or that something that anybody owns, because it is so readily available to us and there are so many ways to move energy. And there's a famous quote by him that says, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." And his work is really what laid the groundwork for the understanding of how frequencies can influence the biological systems, even though there have been ancient civilizations that have been doing this for a long time, like Chinese medicine is all based on the flow of energy in the body. But Tesla was kind of one of the more recent researchers and scientists who was working through some of this information. The problem was that because he wanted free energy for everyone, there were people that wanted to capitalize and monetize the energy and wanted to control that a little bit. So some of his findings are just now being revisited by the scientific community in the last 20 years or so. It's unfortunate that the idea of scientific exploration and the literal definition of science itself is this idea of discovering something that you didn't know before. But because the scientific community is all one thing built upon the other, it can be difficult to introduce a new theory or a new component into the scientific community and the system, because it may require going backwards a little bit and undoing some theories that we thought were proven, that we thought were fact. So unfortunately, throughout history and throughout time, a lot of people have been silenced with the truth because it was like too dramatic and it would have caused a lot of questioning and going backwards and reevaluating certain theories. But we already do use energy healing in modern medicine. So sonograms and ultrasounds, both of those are sound healing. I know it's funny to think of them that way because it's not audible sound, but ultrasound is sound therapy. You are using a frequency, a high frequency sound wave, to create images and to look at the body's interior and see how things are working. And you're using sound therapy to promote healing in the tissues, to stimulate repair, to reduce inflammation, get rid of pain, all of that. And really, I think that's just the beginning of these technologies and these machines that will start to help our healing on a physical level. Now, when we talk about Tesla and his ideas of healing, he talked about resonance a lot. And resonance is this idea that if you use specific frequencies, you can harmonize the body's energy fields with these frequencies, and then your body is able to kind of heal on its own. And that's the premise for me behind a lot of the tuning forks and sound instruments that I employ in my own sessions with people. So we've got the ancients talking about practices like acupuncture, Ayurveda, shamanic healing. All of that is based on the flow of energy through the body, and that blockages in that energy lead to illness, as I described previously. And then we have more modern research like that of Tesla. And we also have some declassified CIA documents and information that talk about the government's exploration of energy healing. And this isn't just their exploration of energy healing, but it's also things like techniques, psychic techniques like remote viewing, telekinesis, psychokinesis, meditation, and the way our thoughts affect our reality, which means there is actually a serious scientific interest in this energy movement, energy work, energy healing, psychic healing, all of this already happening. Whether it is directly available to the public right now is, kind of the question, but there are higher ups, there are people within the scientific community and the government both that have been doing this kind of research for years and years. It just hasn't been available to us. So this is the future. This is where we're headed, and this is where we're going. There's kind of a new emerging research in the bioelectromagnetic and subtle energy field. There is something called a pulsed electromagnetic field, which is a therapy that is a non-invasive treatment for chronic pain, depression, and conditions like that. And then at the same time, there's also a medical understanding that at least Reiki, acupuncture, and those kind of therapies are helpful to patients that are healing in hospitals, in clinics, from some major surgeries and cancer and all sorts of things. Hospitals now are beginning to recognize that at least this type of relaxation on the nervous system is doing something for the patient, whether or not they directly address or believe in the idea of energy flow and movement and all of that. So if you have questions about any of that, there is a lot of information that you can read out there. I just invite you to research for yourself what is happening in the scientific community with the biofield and the electromagnetic field of the human body. So that is kind of where we are in the scientific community So that is kind of where we are in the scientific community and the medical community as far as our understanding of the body being electric and being this electromagnetic, having this electromagnetic field about it or quality about it. Let's talk about energy itself for a second. So, quantum physics says that at the smallest scale, everything in the universe is made up of a subatomic particle, like electron, proton, and neutron, right? If you look at physics, we know that the atom is made up of electrons, protons, and neutrons. And for a long time, people thought that if you were to break apart an atom, that you would find an even smaller component. And the crazy part was they broke apart an atom and there was just empty space, like there was nothing there. It's just the proton, neutrons, and electrons. And protons, neutrons, and electrons are essentially just like a little packet of energy. So if everything is made up of atoms, the table, the chair, the human body, the plants, water, everything at the smallest component is made up of atoms, and inside an atom is just energy, then at its base level, everything on this earth is energy. Which leads me to 2 points. One is that means the oneness of everything is not just some woo-woo bullshit either. At our core, all of us, including the table and the chair, and the floor and the ceiling and the plants and the animals and every single thing at our core are these little tiny packets of energy, little pieces of energy. We're all just energy, everything that we are. Now that also leads me to say that energy is just a thing like any other thing. Energy is something that exists, like gravity. So the idea of working with energy, really shouldn't have anything to make you fearful. if we're just working with those little packets of energy, ultimately, it's the same as working with something physically. It's the same as working with oxygen, right? We know oxygen just exists. It's just a thing that exists. So at its core, it's really not scary, and it's really not anything to be afraid of for those of you that are afraid of this type of work. Now, when we talk about matter, okay, so matter is just concentrated energy. Matter vibrates at certain frequencies. So a rock vibrates at a certain frequency. The cells in your body vibrate at a certain frequency. Everything is in constant motion, constant vibration, because it's made up of energy. It's just about the concentration of that energy. Now, I will say the density of the object or whatever it is does not mean that the vibration is slow or fast. It has more to do with the energy of the particles within the object. It has more to do with the molecules within the object. So we won't really talk about that necessarily because that kind of gets really deep into things. But the important thing to note here is that everything is energy. And if everything has this energetic quality and this energetic space and component to it, then that means it can be affected with energy work, energy healing. By working with the energy of whatever it is, you're able to move it, to change it, to manipulate it in some way. Now, again, I want to reiterate, a lot of this is still conjecture. A lot of this is still theory because there have not been scientific experiments that have proved every aspect of energy healing. So while there are many scientific components that have been proven that could lead us to believe that this is true, it's still all theory and it's still a work in progress. To that, I would also like to add that to me, if it's changing your life and it's working, great. We all have different experiences with this type of work, and it really does resonate with some people, and some people just can't get behind it. And I totally understand that, and that's okay. But for those of you that have done this work or have had this work done and it's helped you, just keep leaning into that. Not everything in our world has to be completely proven for us to know that it's effective. The proof of a theory is something that exists within the scientific system, but just because something is not proven does not mean it's not effective. Now, with that, you have to use logic and reason, and don't do things that feel unsafe to you, and don't do things just because someone told you to. I mean, we have to employ all different aspects of our intelligence here with things like this. But if energy healing is working for you, keep going. Who cares if you haven't seen an experiment that proves every single aspect of it? Okay, so I just want to say that as I'm talking about this here because I can hear now that there are people that would potentially say, well, yes, that's true about quantum physics, but that's not necessarily true about energy work that hasn't been proven. And yeah, I know. I know it hasn't been proven. What I'm saying is just use your common sense about things that have been proven to come to the conclusions that you need to come to until something else is proven, okay? So yes, going back to quantum physics talks about something called the wave-particle duality. So particles, like electrons, photons, they have two qualities to them. Sometimes they are particles, like a particle of light, and sometimes they are waves, like a sound wave. This is why sound and light are so effective for our energy healing. This also means, from an energy healing perspective, that waves can be influenced, they can be harmonized, they can be balanced. So we're interacting with these energy fields, these energy particles or waves and restoring balance and harmony where there might be a disruption in the wave pattern, where there might be a particle that has been stuck out here it's not moving anymore. We want it to be in that wave form. So if it's stuck out here, it's not moving, we need to free it up. So that's what's happening with the energy work. That's what we're doing. We do this by coherence and resonance. So when I am working with your energy as the healer, my energy, based on my intention and the work I've done on myself, really, my energy is coming into contact with your field of energy. And my energy is allowing your energy to become more coherent because mine is. And your energy is resonating with the energy I'm giving off. Now, a lot of that is based out of intention. My intention as the healer, or your intention as the healer of your own self, to move the energy. This is one of the reasons it's so hard to describe, because it goes back to that belief and that faith and the intention behind it. There's a phenomenon in quantum physics that's called quantum entanglement. So the idea here is that particles, two particles or more, can become entangled, which means that one particle instantly influences the state of another. Now, the crazy part about this is that it doesn't have to be in the same location. This could be one particle all the way on the other side of the world that is entangled with this particle here. So you're influencing one particle, and the one on the other side of the world is doing the same thing. There's a whole experiment on this that you can read about if you're interested. I'll try to link something to it. So this can explain how energy healing even works at a distance. This is why I take a lot of virtual clients and distance clients, and people are like, I don't get it. I'm not in person with you. How can you affect my energy? It's because my intention is to connect with your energy, that little particle. And when I do that, and you give me the permission to do that, then I am able to work with it in the same way as when you are live in person right next to me, because these two particles are connected. And again, that goes back to kind of the oneness of everything and how we're all energy and we're all connected. Thanks for bearing with me here. I mean, there's so much information, and it's kind of difficult to know exactly where to start and where to end with all of it, because there's so many components to it. And really, like I said, there's still so much research to be done. So we talk about what we know, and I'll tell you what I know and what, I think some of the important aspects are, but at the same time, it's ever expanding. So now for a minute, let's talk again about the subconscious mind and just our thoughts and emotions, and how by rewiring those, we can affect our energy. Like I said, the brain emits a frequency. So does the heart. Our thoughts and our emotions, all of that is energy. All of that is frequency. All of that is a specific vibration. So when you're putting that vibration out into the world, you're putting that emotional vibration out into the world, or that thought vibration. You are going to match with things that are vibrating at that same speed, which is going to attract more of that emotion, more events that cause that emotion to come up in you, more events that justify that thought that you're having. And that's just one component of this. I mean, there are many, many kind of more psychological components to, seeing a repeated pattern in your life and all of that. But energetically, this is what's happening. So the more that you change your thoughts and the more that you work with your emotions, release emotions from painful events that maybe have been stuck in your energy, the more you do that, the more you start to have more flow in your body, in your energy body, in your electromagnetic field, and the more you start to attract things of that quote unquote higher vibration or better things, more desirable things. And let's talk about vibration and voltage for a minute. So voltage is this idea that our body becomes more stagnant when we have difficult experiences or when our energy is blocked. And because of that, our light body, as it's called, our energy body, also known as light, could call it a sound body if you wanted to, because it's all the same, a particle, a wave, energy. Our light body is at a certain voltage. So when it is blocked, when it is experiencing difficulty, when the energy is blocked or stuck, then the brightness, the vibration, the voltage of our energy is low. So the more that our energy moves through us, the greater the electrical current, the stronger, the higher the voltage. So this makes us more magnetic. It makes us more magnetic and it makes us more attractive energetically. When we talk about raising your vibration, we are talking about letting go of some of the density of lower vibrational emotions. So emotions, like I said, all kind of have their own frequency, and emotions like guilt and shame and fear and some of those quote unquote negative emotions, which that isn't really the right word, negative, but that's how we see them sometimes. Those emotions are more dense. The frequency of them is more dense. So the vibration is low or slow. And emotions like joy and authenticity and love and peace and harmony, those kind of emotions are lighter and vibrate faster and have a completely different frequency. So those quote unquote more positive emotions or better emotions give you this higher vibration, this sense of a higher vibration, because your body is just vibrating with those emotions rather than some of the more dense emotions. So when people talk about raising your vibration or any of that stuff, that's just all they're talking about, is really kind of releasing some of the stagnancy in your system. And that's why I think like raising your voltage is a better way to describe it, because really we want just the flow to be better and the signal to be stronger. And of course, when we release those heavy emotions, when we release that density, then automatically we start to lighten up a little bit and that signal becomes stronger. So I like to say that energy healing kind of has 4 components. One of them is belief, because there's extensive research on, you can talk about the placebo effect, that the body's ability to heal both mentally, emotionally, and physically is greatly dependent on our belief of healing. And there's lots of placebo studies that have been done that prove that to be true. So the belief that we have in the work, the intention that we have, this goes back to, again, focusing on that particle. If you're focusing on the particle, moving the particle the way that you want to move it, it moves. It works. It's available to you because it's just energy that you're focusing on. So belief, intention, attention. So intention is the will to do something. Attention is the focus on that thing. There's a saying that is, where your attention goes, energy flows. And that's true. If you hold the intention to move the energy, it moves. If you have the intention and you hold your attention on the energy, it moves. So belief, intention, attention, and then acceptance is the last one. And acceptance to me is acceptance for where you are and awareness of where you are within your body at a physical level, at an energetic level, an emotional level. And a lot of energy healing, really, I have come to find with many, many of my clients, is that sometimes the energy just needs to be witnessed and expressed and acknowledged. And that's kind of that acceptance piece. If you've got so much baggage you've been hanging on to, emotional baggage or whatever, from past traumas and different events in your life. And that energy has never been witnessed. It's only been experienced in the trauma and then shoved away. It needs to be seen. And then a lot of times it will already just release. It will move through on its own. But it hasn't been experienced and run through the body. It's only been shoved away because you weren't able to deal with it during that time of trauma. And so that is a huge part of energy healing, is acceptance of the energy and witnessing of the energy. If you are interested in any more of the science behind all of this, please reach out to me and I will give you books upon books to read. I don't think that I'm necessarily fantastic at explaining all of this, but I do think and hope that it has been enough that you kind of understand how it works to a point that it feels safe to you to try and that you understand that there is some scientific basis behind it. So before we end, let's talk briefly about what it looks like when you get an energy session, with me specifically, because everybody sort of does it differently, and depending on who you go to and depending on how they're certified or what experiences they have had, they might do different techniques and have different opinions about the way things should be done. Actually, before we talk about that, first, let's talk about what things to look for and to avoid in an energy healer. Because even though all of us can work with energy, I don't necessarily think all of us should work with other people's energy. It is all more than okay to do anything you want to with yourself. You know what I mean? You can do as much energy work you want on yourself with as much knowledge as you have and experiment with yourself. And that's fine, and also your decision. I will say, I think there are a lot of quote-unquote energy healers, shamans, psychics, people out there that don't actually know what they're doing. This is not to scare you, but it's to make you aware that when you are choosing someone to work in your energy, you are making yourself extremely vulnerable to that healer and that person. If your energy can be manipulated in a way that I'm talking about here, that is so dramatic that it can fully heal you, that it can affect your spirituality, it can affect your physicality, your emotional and mental health, you want to be very selective about who you let work with your energy. So if you've never had energy work before, a good thing to ask someone is what kind of protection they put in place. Because when you are working with energy, you are also working in a spiritual realm. And there are a lot of other forces, a lot of other energies that exist outside of this three-dimensional reality. And those energies can sometimes be good and sometimes they can have not so good intentions. So when you are getting this kind of work done, first of all, you want to make sure that the person that is doing the work for you is not open to some of those more nefarious entities and energies. You also want to make sure that that person has their own energetic cleansing and protective practice for their own energy. Because the last thing you want is to go into an energy session with a healer who has all kinds of lower vibrational attachments to them and then open up your energy to them and have them working in there. So if you're unsure, please reach out to me. I don't even necessarily need you to work with me, but I'm happy to help you decide if this person that you're working with, this healer or whoever it is, seems safe or not. And one thing you can ask them is what kind of protection they use for their own energy and for you when they're working with you. I also, this is just a preference that I have, but I tend to prefer healers that are working directly with source energy rather than healers that are channeling some other kind of energy. And again, like I said, this is a preference and a discernment of my own choosing. So discern as you will for yourself. But there are a lot of healers out there that don't actually know how to do energy work and how to work with the energy on their own. They channel other energies and entities and beings that work with your energy. And to me, that is a gamble. It's a total gamble. And sometimes those healers don't know what they're working with. They're just letting it work through them. So be very discerning and careful when you are choosing someone to work in your energy. Again, I don't say this to scare you. I say this because I have had so many clients that have come to me that have worked with energy healers before that have been dangerous to them because they didn't know what they were doing, they weren't protected, or they themselves didn't have good intentions. And because I have met so many healers that I can tell have a lot of issues. And I'm not saying you have to be a fully perfect person to be a healer or to be working with energy, but I do not think everyone is qualified or understands what they're working with and what they're doing. So that's my little disclaimer about that. And again, please, I don't care if I've never met you and if you don't actually even want to work with me, but if you want to get energy work, please reach out to me if you need help determining if this person feels safe or not to work with, okay? Because honestly, I want you to find a safe healer. I want all of us to find a safe healer, and I want healers to be more accountable for the work that they're doing. All right, now that we have that all taken care of, here is what an energy session looks like and what is happening. So when you come get an energy session with me, typically one of two things will happen. I will interview you for like 30 minutes or so, and we'll just chat about your life and your history and what's going on. Sometimes that will be at the same time as your session, and sometimes it will be beforehand, depending on what we decide. Some people are funny about this part because some people recognize my intuitive and psychic abilities and want to test me to see how intuitive I actually am and what I actually know. And I get that. I understand why you feel that way. And I understand why you would want to just jump in without me knowing anything at all, just to see. Can I do that? Yes. Do I like doing that? No. And the reason I don't like doing that is because the more information I have, the better I can help you. When I'm jumping in and looking at your energy, I will see all of those things, but sometimes you'll have to interpret them. So I will say, I see this in your energy, and you will have to interpret what that is for me. I don't necessarily always see the interpretation of it. So if I know something about you, for example, I know that you had this relationship, this breakup recently, or I know that you had this really intense trauma early on in your life, or whatever it is, that helps me to know if I am seeing something in your energy, it could be related to that, and here's why. It just kind of helps us move a little better. So basically, we will chat about your life, about what's going on, and then we will go into the session. I do 2 types of energy sessions. One is a live session, and the other, I will send you a recording of the session. The recording option is just a little bit easier for both of us, where we can do it on our own time. I can record it on my own time and do the healing on my own time, and you can listen on your own time and have your own sacred space to process that. And because of quantum entanglement, it works. It works at a distance. We don't even have to be on the phone together. We don't even have to be doing it at the same time. And it's still a really powerful, really cool experience. Or we will decide to do it in person, and you will either come to my office or you will be on the phone with me, and I will do the session. In the first energy session, typically I am looking for how long it is going to take us to work together, because everything that needs to be done in anyone's energy cannot be done in one session. If someone tells you that it can, they are probably not legit. So I will first kind of determine what needs to be done and make a list of all of the different aspects that need to be worked through. Some things will show up right away and some things might take time. I will go into your energy and I employ several different techniques. One is just intuitive healing, where I am using my intention and I am working with your energy. So if you were to see me in person, basically what that looks like is me meditating and sometimes using my hands, but really just working with my visual imagery, my imagination, basically, working with your energy. However, sometimes I will use tools like tuning forks or different instruments to move the energy a little bit better. And sometimes I will work with crystals. I don't work with crystals that often, but occasionally there are certain things that sort of require it or move a little bit better with a crystal. Usually if it's a recorded session, it takes about 30 minutes to an hour for me to complete the session, the first session, and then I send you the recording. If you're in person, usually that tells me that you have some physical body work that needs to be done to release the energy. Energy can be trapped in our physical body, like I said, in our fascia or different parts of our body. And so if someone is coming to see me in person and they have the recorded option, I mean, some people just like a live experience better, but usually that tells me that there's something going on in their physical body that we need to work with and manipulate. So because I'm a massage therapist also, I work with the energy in the physical body as well. So this looks like me putting my hands on your body. This looks like me manipulating your tissues and like you would a massage, but more site specific, depending on pain or depending on what's coming up. I also work with the energy with my hands and the instruments like tuning forks and stuff there too. Sometimes I employ some subconscious reprogramming into your session. So if something comes up in your energy that has to do with needing to reprogram a thought, we will do that right then and there. There's a technique that I have for that. Sometimes you will have an emotional release or a physical release of some kind. You might need to go to the bathroom, you might throw up, you might, all sorts of things. You might cry, you might have hiccups, you might laugh, and we process through that. Sometimes you will need to verbally process things too from your past, and so those will come out as well. And then occasionally I will have you move in different ways. So that might be shaking, that might be getting in different yoga poses or positions or different positions on the massage table as well. And all of that is to move your energy. And then after that, most of the time, everyone feels extremely relaxed and lighter. And then for the next day or so, you may be processing things emotionally as well, or just have different physical symptoms or feelings as the energy works through and moves through your body. And then typically we have another session a week or 2 weeks later. I'm saying all of this because I know there are a lot of you who have been interested in this kind of thing, but you really don't understand what even happens. And part of it is difficult to describe until you're there experiencing it. And part of the reason for that is that it's different for every person I work with. Every person has a different experience with it, and I utilize different skill sets for different problems and different things that come up. So I can't sit here and tell you every single thing I do every single time because there is not necessarily a set way of doing all of it. But I hope that helps kind of dispel what this is. It's not meant to be really mysterious. It's pretty straightforward when you are experiencing it. It's just not something that is super easy to explain or that I expect everyone to know right away. So if you are interested in scheduling a session with me, like I said, some of those remote sessions where I send you the recording can be really, really helpful. It's also cheaper for you. It's easier for both of us a lot of times. So if you're interested in something like that, let me know, and I'm happy to help you out, happy to provide that type of service for you. Like I said, reach out if you are working with another healer and you want to know if you are in a safe space with them. Let me know if you have any further questions about any of the information I shared today. And lastly, if you want to be part of a healing community and you're not already, please join my membership. There's so many fantastic healing tools available to you in that space for $7.77 a month. Hypnosis, meditations, group healings, a community chat, all kinds of stuff. So if you are interested in this work, but you're not ready to commit to doing a full session or group of sessions with me, then get in the membership and just check it out there and slowly start working on your healing on your own. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for listening and for being a part of this journey. Happy healing, and I'll talk to you next week.